Good morning, Wall Street winners. It is Wednesday, October the 16th, and we have some interesting news coming through the wire from Morgan Stanley, who beat again. So JP Morgan, Goldman, Morgan Stanley, all beating in the big financial services categories. If we flip over to the Bloomberg and take a look at markets this morning, what we're going to see here is that in the futures, all three of the US indices are up. The semis got slammed yesterday due to TSMC's miss on earnings, and that took down all of the semiconductors. That was a huge surprise miss. So it'll be very interesting going into the next couple of weeks when we start to hear from some of the other semiconductor companies what's actually happening in that industry and whether that's a one-off and an anomaly or whether that's something affecting the greater industry. When we hear the previous day from NVIDIA saying that they just can't keep up with demand for their chips, it does kind of put some questions out there as to what's going on, and it seems like it could be a one-off. So if we take a look at where we were yesterday or where we are today, crude is just under $71. Crude got slammed when the U.S. agreed to give Israel the anti-missile equipment for early detection of attacks into Israel from surrounding countries. And based on, I think, the agreement there, which really wasn't public as much, but you can deduce that Israel has then told the US they wouldn't bomb Iranian drilling sites and impact Iranian crude. So that has caused crude to fall in the last couple of days. Doesn't mean the turmoil is over there by any means. It just means that both sides, the US and Israel, have made some concessions to work towards a resolution over there and to help Israel protect itself. And that, in fact, is hurting crude prices, but it's benefiting the administration in the US because if crude is low, then that helps inflation remain low and it makes Americans feel as though they have more money in their pocket because it's not going out into gasoline costs at the pump. So that's one of the things that's going on right now. If we take a look over here at the VIX is just under 21. So it is on the higher side, but I think it is going to come down as we move through the October trading season and earnings season. We can see here that we're in health and retail. So we're in the Yahoo Finance app and the stocks that we follow. Most of the health and retail are in the green this morning with HCA up $18. That may be just some pre-market activity and may not stick when the market opens, as we've talked about before. But not a lot going on in here in terms of news at this point. So I'm holding off on this sector and just taking a wait and see approach. Transport as well. Transport, JB Hunt up $12.55 in the pre-market. That is certainly interesting. And that could be based on some earnings coming out, but not that is unexpected for sure. If we take a look at JB Hunt here and scrolling down, yeah, so their earnings call highlights some positivity, I guess. Didn't look at this, but revenue, they topped their earnings and revenue estimates. So wow, so they blew it out of the park on their earnings and they are up a significant amount. So an industry where with the dock workers striking for, well, let's call it the better part of a week, and retail being okay, but not super strong. It's interesting to see that trucking is doing so well in North America, but that's a positive sign for the economy. And that stock's obviously taken a pre-market bump and will likely be up at the open in under an hour. We scroll down to oil. Oil got hit hard yesterday. It's looking like it's going to make a bit of a comeback today, but certainly not going to recover in most cases to what the losses were yesterday on the individual holdings. You do have some tremendous value in this sector, and you do have earnings starting actually, I think today or tomorrow with Kinder Morgan on Thursday. So we are going to hear from Kinder Morgan tomorrow, and we'll get a short or small insight, one company insight or data point into what's going on with Kinder Morgan. So that'll be an interesting one to keep an eye out for and see how it affects the other companies, and maybe if it provides some insight into the direction there. Crude is up slightly. It's up 16 cents. And it does look like it'll be a positive day, but just not probably going to make back the baseline to where they were yesterday. And then there's tech. So tech in the semis got slammed yesterday. NVIDIA, NVDL, not NVIDIA, but the Granite shares NVIDIA was down $7. It looks like it's up a bit in the pre-market today. Micron got hit yesterday. It's recovering 25% of what it was down yesterday in the pre-market so far. You've got CrowdStrike, which took a hit yesterday. Palantir was off. Um, Almost everything was off yesterday in tech, but it does look like, for the most part, there is green across the screen in the pre-market. So definitely looking somewhat positive, with the exception there, Microsoft still off $2 in the pre-market. And scrolling down further, we've got Workday up 87 cents. Lam Research, it got killed yesterday, down almost $10, $9.34, down to the 76 range. I think it's a steal at 76. Lam Research is going to report a week today, so we're going to hear from them. We'll go through the companies that are reporting next and give you some ideas shortly on where you might want to be looking for opportunities, particularly short-term opportunities that could have positive impacts with respect to their earnings release dates. So as we scroll down, I still love Google here at 66.90. I think there's a lot of move to the upside there, and it looks like NVIDIA is going to start off in the green at the least, and probably make back some of what it's doing today. Sorry, some of what it lost yesterday. And then we go to banking. So this is a sector that we've been promoting strongly over the last couple of weeks, going into earnings, thinking that there would be an earnings run up, which there has been, and then potentially a positive jump on earnings, which there also has been. So SoFi hasn't announced yet. SoFi announces in almost 2 weeks, 13 days. It had some positive news around a partnership with Fortress Investments, and Fortress providing some backing for some of the loans that SoFi makes. So I think that's positive news going into the SoFi announcement in 13 days. So that would be one I would be definitely looking to keep an eye on for some continued moves upwards. You had JP Morgan come out last Friday, have great numbers. Then you had Goldman come out yesterday. It went way up and then fizzled. So that was an interesting move, but it looks like it's going to recover and get above where it ended pre-earnings. So it's up 441 in the pre-market. And then this morning we had Morgan Stanley. Morgan Stanley had great numbers, and they're up almost $3 or about 3% on the day in their early morning session. Schwab came out yesterday as well. It was up into the 72, 73 range. It settled just under 72, had some great numbers out of there. So I think now we're going to start to see our attention turn to the regional banks. One of the banks, Bank of California, reporting in 6 days, so next week, could be one that has some positive results coming out. You've got Zion Bank as well that is reporting in 5 days. This could be a strong leader in the regional banking sector. And then M&T Bank as well, with earnings tomorrow, looking to be quite positive, and that could bump that stock up into the 190 range. So I've been saying for a while that I thought M&T was a little overpriced and expensive, but based on what it's been doing and its past earnings track record at throughout this year, and this being the third one, I think it's in relatively good shape to beat on earnings and revenue and see that number go even higher. So starting to change my perspective on M&T Bank, and I am more bullish on M&T at this point. You've got Raymond James as well. So they're out in 7 days, and I do believe that if Charles Schwab did well, Raymond James will do well. We heard today that Morgan Stanley's wealth management unit, JP Morgan's and Goldman's, they've all done well in the quarter. So I think we'll have a positive impact here, and we may see a bump going into earnings for these folks as well. Now, just be a little careful with Raymond James, because they did get a bit of a bump here on in the past 5 days on the 15th. So that may have been a precursor to potentially good earnings, and that may end up being the bump that earnings actually get. So they may not go any further, although I do think there's a room for a 1 or 2% move there on some positive earnings in future forecasts. So that's where we are with what we're watching today. If we take a look at the events calendar, but before we get in there, if you're liking these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button and leave me a comment about what you'd like to hear me talk about. So as we get into the earnings calendar, you can see that today we've got Morgan Stanley that came out this morning. Kinder Morgan comes out in the afternoon or after market. And then tomorrow we've got TSM, Taiwan Semi Manufacturing. So that'll be the first indication. And I'm very bullish on Taiwan Semi Manufacturing, that they're going to have some good numbers come out this quarter. We also have Netflix tomorrow and M&T Bank tomorrow. And then Friday, another one of our oil companies, SLB, comes out. Monday, we have the first of the regionals, Zions Bank. We have Canadian National on Tuesday, the railway. And then the same day before the market, we've got Bank of California. And then Wednesday, we get into Tesla, IBM, and Lam Research. And then finally, on Thursday, we get Valero, and Friday, HCA for healthcare. So we're starting now to get into a bit of more of a mixed bag across sectors. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to get in before earnings on some of these and catch a little bit of a bump forward. TSM today would be worth a look going into earnings tomorrow, as would M&T Bank today going into earnings tomorrow, and then we'll wait and see what comes out of those. So that's where I'm going to focus my efforts today. Good luck in your trades, and we'll talk